"Babe," he said loudly, deliberately, his voice slicing through the noise. "There you are." Taylor froze. Her tray wobbled dangerously, a glass nearly tipping before she steadied it against her hip. What?" The nearest reporters gasped. Someone snapped a photo. Ethan slipped an arm around her waist, pulling her gently but firmly to his side. "You look stunning," he said under his breath. "Just smile." She blinked up at him, confusion melting into shock, then something like irritation. But the cameras were flashing too fast for her to react. The champagne glass trembled slightly in Taylor's hand as a voice behind her barked, "Move faster! Table 7 needs refills!" The hotel ballroom glittered like a galaxy crystal chandeliers, silk gowns, laughter bouncing off marble. She forced a polite smile as she weaved through the crowd, the tray steady, but her pulse far from calm. The night was supposed to be just another shift, another few $100s toward tuition and her mother's medical bills. She didn't belong here. Serve drinks in. At the far end of the hall, Ethan Lee adjusted his cufflinks, trying not to show his boredom. Billionaire, tech genius, and CEO of Lee Dynamics. His attention flicked again and again toward the entrance. She was here. Vanessa Monroe, his ex-fiancée, social media's favorite golden girl, had arrived in a cascade of silver fabric and flashing lights. The woman who'd once promised to love him forever had left him for someone with a bigger yacht and more followers. And now she was gliding toward him, flanked by reporters, a knowing smirk curving her glossy lips. "Ethan!" someone called. The cameras shifted toward him. He felt his jaw tighten. Every instinct screamed at him to appear composed, unbothered. But the truth pulsed hot beneath his skin. He was not over her. Not entirely. Then his gaze caught on someone moving through the crowd. A woman with rich brown skin, her hair pulled back, balancing a tray of glasses with quiet determination. Her eyes, warm and steady, met his for only a second before darting away. Something in him moved. Vanessa's heels clicked closer. The cameras whirred. The room began to blur. And, before he could think, before logic could stop him, Ethan stepped forward, closed the space between him and the waitress, and grabbed her hand. "Babe," he said loudly, deliberately, his voice slicing through the noise. "There you are." Taylor froze. Her tray wobbled dangerously, a glass nearly tipping before she steadied it against her hip. What?" The nearest reporters gasped. Someone snapped a photo. Ethan slipped an arm around her waist, pulling her gently but firmly to his side. "You look stunning," he said under his breath. "Just smile." She blinked up at him, confusion melting into shock, then something like irritation. But the cameras were flashing too fast for her to react. "Is this your girlfriend, Mr. Lee?" a journalist called. Ethan gave a small, practiced smile. "She's the reason I'm smiling tonight." The crowd erupted in whispers. Vanessa's smirk faltered, her perfectly lined lips parting in disbelief. Taylor felt her pulse hammering against her ribs as Ethan guided her toward the exit, still holding her hand as if the world hadn't just imploded around them. When they finally ducked into the service corridor, Taylor yanked her hand free. "What the hell was that?" Ethan exhaled slowly, adjusting his tie. "Damage control. Damage. You used me as a prop." He met her glare evenly. "You were standing there, and she was coming toward me. I had to make it look real." "Real?" Taylor scoffed, breathless with disbelief. "You don't even know me." For a moment, Ethan said nothing. His expression softened, just slightly. "You're right," he said quietly. "And I'm sorry." Taylor blinked, thrown off by the sincerity in his tone. Billionaires didn't usually apologize, but before she could respond, the ballroom doors burst open, two paparazzi stumbling in, snapping photos. "Mr. Lee, who's the woman?" Taylor turned away, shielding her face. "This is insane," she muttered. "I'm leaving." But by morning, it was already too late. Her phone lit up with notifications, hundreds of them. Mystery black woman spotted with billionaire tech mogul Ethan Lee. Her picture, wide-eyed and confused, was everywhere. Tabloids, gossip sites, TikTok clips dissecting every glance between them. She sat on the edge of her bed, the morning light pooling around her. "No," she whispered, scrolling through the chaos. "No, no, no," her boss called an hour later. "Taylor, what did you do?" "Nothing," she said. "I didn't even know who he was." "Well, congratulations," her boss snapped. "You're suspended. The client's furious. The photos are everywhere. And they think it was staged. I can't have this kind of attention." The line went dead before she could defend herself. By noon, reporters were parked outside her apartment building. Meanwhile, in a glass tower overlooking Central Park, Ethan watched the coverage unfold on a wall of screens. Every network, every blog, was running with the story. His PR team was panicking, investors calling nonstop. His assistant stood nearby, nervous. "Sir, do we issue a statement?" Ethan leaned back in his chair, eyes narrowing on Taylor's face in the still frame, her expression caught between shock and defiance. Something about it stirred him. "No," he said finally. "Not yet." That evening, Taylor returned home to find a sleek black car waiting in front of her building. A driver stepped out and opened the door. "Miss Brooks?" he asked. "Mr. Ethan Lee would like to speak with you." Taylor crossed her arms. "Tell him I'm not interested." The driver handed her a thick white envelope. "He asked me to give you this. It's an apology." Curiosity warred with anger. She hesitated, then took the envelope. Inside was a handwritten note, short, neat, precise. "I owe you an explanation, and a chance to fix this properly. E.L." Beneath the note lay a small black card embossed in gold. Lee Dynamics, Executive Suite Access. Taylor stared at it, her heart caught between fury and fascination. Billionaires didn't send handwritten notes. She should ignore him. She wanted to ignore him, but her mother's medical bill lay open on the counter, the red numbers screaming louder than her pride. The next morning, she found herself standing in front of the Lee Dynamics tower, the wind teasing the edge of her coat. She drew a deep breath, squared her shoulders, and stepped inside. The receptionist smiled nervously, already expecting her. "Mr. Lee is waiting." When she entered his office, floor-to-ceiling glass, skyline stretching like infinity, Ethan was already standing, a faint smile tugging at his lips. "I wasn't sure you'd come," he said. Taylor folded her arms. "I'm not here for small talk. You ruined my life." Ethan's gaze didn't waver. "And I intend to fix it." Taylor narrowed her eyes. "Fix it? You think a note and a car ride make up for being dragged into your circus?" Ethan didn't flinch. He walked around his desk, his presence calm but commanding, every move deliberate. "You're right. I handled that night poorly. But now the story's out, and it's spiraling. My investors want answers. The media won't let go. I can't risk my company's image collapsing because of one impulsive moment." Taylor's laugh was bitter. "So you brought me here to apologize or to make me part of your PR stunt again?" His voice dropped lower, steadier. "Neither. I brought you here to offer a solution." He picked up a slim leather folder from the desk and placed it in front of her. Inside were papers, neat rows of text, fine print, and a bold heading that made her breath hitch. "Temporary relationship agreement." Taylor's jaw tightened. "You have got to be kidding me." "I need stability for a few weeks," Ethan said, his gaze steady. "A believable relationship, something to quiet the rumors until my company's next announcement is out of the way." "And you want me to play the part?" "You already are the part," he replied simply. "The public loves you. You're authentic, grounded, the complete opposite of the world I'm surrounded by. That's what makes this work." Taylor stared at him, disbelief giving way to incredulous laughter. "You're unbelievable. You humiliate me, get me suspended, and now you want to pay me to pretend to date you?" "Not pretend," he said evenly. "Portray. There's a difference." She shook her head. "I'm not for sale." Ethan hesitated, his expression flickering with something unreadable. "I'm not asking you to be. I'm asking you to help me for a fair price." Her eyes flicked back to the folder. "And what exactly is your definition of fair?" He met her gaze directly. $250,000. Silence dropped heavy between them. Taylor's fingers tightened on the folder, her pulse kicking hard. That was more money than she could dream of, enough to pay off tuition, cover her mother's treatment, even start fresh. But the insult in it burned. "I don't want your money," she said, her voice tight. "I just want my life back." Ethan leaned forward slightly, his tone softening. "Taylor, your life is already tangled in mine. Whether we like it or not, the media isn't letting go. You can either keep fighting the noise or control the narrative with me." She hated that he sounded logical. She hated even more that he was right. 2 weeks, she said finally. "That's it." His brows lifted slightly. "Make it 6. 3, she countered. A faint smirk curved his lips. 4. Final offer. Taylor hesitated, then extended her hand across the desk. 4 weeks, then I disappear. Ethan's hand closed over hers. Warm, firm, steady. Deal. The handshake lingered a second longer than necessary. Neither of them moved first. Then Ethan let go and turned toward the window. "My team will handle the logistics schedule, public appearances, wardrobe. You'll have complete access to our media consultant. We'll make this seamless." Taylor exhaled slowly. "You make it sound like a merger." "In my world," Ethan said quietly, "everything is." That afternoon blurred into fittings, contracts, and media prep. By evening, Taylor stood in front of a mirror in a luxury boutique, her reflection almost unrecognizable. The simple black dress fit her perfectly elegant but understated. A stylist fussed with her curls, while another adjusted her shoes. Ethan's reflection appeared behind her in the mirror, watching silently. "You look," he stopped, searching for a word. "Incredible." Taylor caught his eyes in the mirror. "Careful, Mr. Lee. People might think you mean that." His lips curved faintly. They'd be right. The words hung in the air, too soft, too genuine. For a man who claimed control over everything, he looked almost uncertain. The first public appearance came 2 nights later, a charity dinner at the Waldorf. Flashbulbs exploded as they stepped from the car, his hand gently guiding her lower back. The crowd buzzed, whispering her name like a mystery they couldn't solve. Taylor smiled on cue, answered questions she'd been coached on, and laughed at Ethan's carefully timed remarks. But as they entered the ballroom, she felt his hand brush hers again, subtle, grounding. "You're doing great," he murmured, voice just for her. She tilted her head, whispering back, "You always this charming when you're lying to people?" He smiled faintly, eyes glinting. "Only when the truth's too complicated." As the night wore on, she found herself laughing for real. He wasn't the ice-cold businessman she'd imagined. Between C's, conversations with donors, he leaned toward her, telling quiet jokes, making her forget for moments at a time that this was all an arrangement. During a lull between speeches, Taylor caught him watching her, his expression softening when she smiled. She felt a heat rise in her chest, unfamiliar and dangerous. Later, as they left through a side corridor, she exhaled. "You're good at this," she said. "At pretending? At making people believe you care." He paused, the edge of a smile fading. "What makes you think I don't?" Taylor opened her mouth, then closed it again. "Because this isn't real, Ethan. It's a contract, a deal." His gaze lingered on her. "Sometimes," he said quietly, "deals become something else." She didn't know what to say to that. Over the next week, their routine blurred lines. Public events turned into quiet car rides home. Their conversations stretched longer, lighter. Ethan began asking questions about her studies, her dreams, her mother. He listened, really listened, in a way that made Taylor uneasy and moved all at once. One evening, after a long charity event, they sat in the car in silence as the city lights drifted by outside. "Your ex," Taylor said softly. "The one you were avoiding that night. She must have hurt you pretty bad." Ethan's hands tightened slightly on the steering wheel. "She wanted the version of me that made headlines, not the one that goes home alone at night." "And which one are you now?" His jaw flexed. "Still figuring that out." Taylor looked out the window. "You ever think maybe money makes it harder to know who really cares?" Ethan glanced at her, a small, weary smile playing on his lips. Every day. The air between them thickened, not with tension, but with understanding. For the first time, Taylor saw him not as a billionaire or a CEO, but a man who'd built walls so high he'd forgotten what stood beyond them. By the second week, tabloids were calling them the couple of the season. Every photo of them together looked effortless, her laughter, his steady gaze. But behind those perfect snapshots was something unspoken, something neither of them dared to name. One evening, after a particularly exhausting gala, Taylor kicked off her shoes in Ethan's penthouse and sighed. "I think my face has forgotten how to stop smiling," Ethan chuckled from the kitchen, loosening his tie. "You did amazing. You charmed half the board tonight." "Yeah," she said dryly. "Do I get a bonus for pretending to be in love with you?" He froze for a heartbeat, then said quietly, "If pretending means looking at me the way you did tonight, I'd say I already overpaid." Taylor turned slowly, her heart stuttering. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because it's not in the contract." Ethan took a step closer. The city skyline shimmered behind him, and for the first time, the distance between them felt fragile. "Then, maybe we need a new one." She swallowed hard, unable to look away. "What are you doing, Ethan?" "Making another impulsive decision," he murmured. "Seems I'm good at those around you." Before she could respond, his phone buzzed sharply on the counter. He hesitated, then picked it up. His face darkened. "It's Vanessa," he said flatly. "She wants to meet." Taylor's stomach dropped. Taylor's pulse quickened at the sound of Vanessa's name. She hadn't met the woman, but she'd seen the pictures, statuesque, elegant, every inch the billionaire's match. The kind of woman who'd never be mistaken for a stranger plucked off a New York street. "Are you going to meet her?" Taylor asked carefully. Ethan's expression gave nothing away. "I have to. If I don't, she'll come to me, and she knows how to make a scene." Taylor crossed her arms, trying to mask the sting rising in her chest. "Then go. It's none of my business." He looked at her for a long moment, searching her face. "You're part of the business now." Her laugh was sharp. "Right, your contract girlfriend. How could I forget?" Ethan's voice softened, but there was an edge beneath. "Taylor?" "No." She cut in, standing up. "You don't get to look at me like that and then say her name in the next breath. Whatever this is, whatever you think this is, it's fake. Remember?" He stepped closer. It stopped feeling fake days ago. Her breath hitched. For a second, neither of them moved. Then, just as quickly, she turned away, snatching her purse off the counter. "I need air, Taylor." She didn't wait. She walked out before the ache in her chest could spill into something she couldn't control. Outside, the cool night wrapped around her, heavy with city sounds. She leaned against the building, closing her eyes. She hated that her heart hurt over something that wasn't supposed to mean anything. Back inside, Ethan stared at the closed door for a long time before exhaling, rubbing his temples. Vanessa's text still glowed on his phone. "Dinner. Tomorrow. No excuses." The next evening came faster than he wanted. He found Vanessa already waiting at the restaurant. Every detail about her perfectly polished her hair, her smile, even the tone of her voice when she greeted him. "Ethan." She rose, brushing a kiss against his cheek. "You look good. Different." "Vanessa." He sat down, his voice flat. "What do you want?" She leaned back, smirking. "Straight to the point. I miss that." Her gaze sharpened. "You've been busy. The mystery girlfriend, the one everyone's talking about." "Taylor, is it?" His jaw tightened. "She's not part of this conversation, isn't she?" Vanessa's tone turned sweet, dangerous. "You think the world doesn't see through it. You needed a distraction, so you picked a girl who makes you look grounded, admirable even, clever." Ethan's expression darkened. "You don't know her. I don't need to." "I know you." Vanessa leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "You're still that man who hates to lose. Tell me, Ethan, are you protecting her or protecting yourself?" He didn't answer, because deep down, he wasn't sure anymore. When he returned to the penthouse that night, the lights were dim. Taylor sat curled up on the couch in sweatpants, a cup of tea cradled in her hands. Her eyes flicked up when he entered. "How was dinner?" she asked quietly. Ethan hesitated. Predictable. That bad? She hasn't changed. Taylor looked down at her tea. You have. That stopped him. What do you mean? You don't look at her the way you used to look at her in those photos. You looked distant, like you were somewhere else entirely. He took a step closer, voice low. And where do you think I was? Her heart skipped. Don't do that. Do what? Say things you don't mean. Ethan's gaze held hers. That's the problem, Taylor. I do mean it. The silence between them thickened. Then she set the cup down, rising to face him. Don't. Because if you keep talking like that, I might start believing it. And when this deal ends, I'll be the only one who gets hurt. He stepped closer, his voice barely above a whisper. You think I won't? Her breath trembled. His proximity burned through her walls. She wanted to move away, she didn't. Ethan, she said softly. We can't. The knock on the door cut her off. Ethan's body stiffened. He turned, frowning, and opened it. Vanessa stood there, in the doorway, in his penthouse. Vanessa, Ethan said sharply. What are you doing here? She smiled, too sweetly. Oh, relax. Your assistant let me up. I wanted to see the woman who's been keeping you so busy. Taylor's stomach dropped. Vanessa's gaze swept over her from head to toe, judging, calculating. Well, you're not what I expected. Taylor forced a polite smile. Most people say that. Do they? Vanessa's lips curved. You must be enjoying the spotlight. Ethan always did have a weakness for charity cases. Ethan's tone snapped. Enough, Vanessa. Taylor took a slow breath, every muscle tight. You know what? I've had enough too. She walked past them, grabbing her jacket. You two can finish your reunion without me. Taylor. She turned, her voice trembling but steady. This isn't me, Ethan. This isn't my world. You can keep your money, your deal, your cameras. I'm done. She walked out before he could stop her. By the time he reached the elevator, she was gone. Ethan stood there, breath heavy, anger and guilt twisting inside him. Vanessa's smug voice followed softly from behind. You'll thank me later. She doesn't belong here. He turned, his voice low and sharp. Get out. Vanessa blinked. Ethan. I said, get out. For the first time, her confidence faltered. She left without another word. Ethan stood alone in the empty penthouse, the city glittering coldly beyond the glass. Taylor's absence felt louder than any silence he'd ever known. He drove through the city that night, searching for her. Her phone went to voicemail. Her apartment was dark. Finally, near dawn, he found her sitting on a bench by the Hudson, wrapped in her jacket, staring at the water. He parked and walked over, quiet. I told you not to come, she said without looking at him. I couldn't let it end like that. It already did. Ethan sat beside her, the chill air biting through his shirt. You think I don't know how much I messed up? I never meant to drag you into this. Then why did you? He was silent for a long time. Because the second I saw you that night at the gala, I didn't think. I just knew I needed you to save me from her. But somehow, you ended up being the one I didn't want to be saved from. Taylor turned slowly, her eyes glassy but fierce. That's a pretty line, Ethan. It's not a line. Then what is it? He exhaled. It's the truth. I started this to fix a headline. Now, I'd burn every contract I've ever signed, if it meant keeping you. Her throat tightened. You don't even know what keeping me means. Then teach me. She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to. But belief was dangerous. So she stood, wiping her eyes. You're used to getting what you want, but I'm not one of your deals, Ethan. I'm a person who's been hurt enough to know that love isn't built on paperwork or guilt. He rose too, desperation flickering in his voice. Then tell me what it's built on. Taylor met his eyes. Time, trust, and a heart you can't buy. And with that, she walked away again, this time slower, like she was waiting to see if he'd follow. He didn't. Not yet. Because for the first time, Ethan Lee understood something money couldn't fix. Some things, to be real, had to be earned. Days turned into a quiet ache. The story that had once flooded the media slowly began to fade, replaced by fresher scandals. But Ethan couldn't shake the emptiness. Every morning he woke to the same view, Manhattan glittering beyond his window, and realized that all his success meant nothing without the one person who'd made him feel alive again. Taylor had returned to her routine lectures, part-time shifts, the grind of a life that felt real, unpolished, and entirely hers. But even as she tried to convince herself she'd done the right thing, her thoughts kept circling back to him. The way his eyes softened when he wasn't guarded. The way he looked at her, not as a distraction, but like she mattered. Still, she told herself, it didn't change anything. He was a billionaire. She was a woman trying to keep her head above water. Their worlds didn't match, and pretending they did had already hurt enough. One Friday afternoon, Taylor was working her campus job, filing paperwork at the student office, when she heard someone at the front desk say her name. Taylor Brooks? She turned. Her heart almost stopped. Ethan stood there. No suit, no entourage, just jeans, a dark coat, and eyes that carried too many sleepless nights. Her breath caught. What are you doing here? He took a cautious step forward. I needed to see you. You shouldn't be here, she said quietly. This isn't your world. Maybe that's the point. She hesitated, folding her arms. What do you want, Ethan? He pulled out a folded envelope and placed it on the counter between them. Your contract. Canceled. You don't owe me anything. No NDAs, no obligations. You're free from all of it. Taylor stared at it, her throat tightening. Why are you doing this? Because I realized I was trying to make you fit into my life when I should have been trying to fit into yours. She blinked, caught between disbelief and something dangerously close to hope. That's not how this works. Ethan's voice was quiet. Maybe not, but it's a start. He exhaled, his eyes steady on hers. You said love was built on time and trust. I can't buy either, but I can earn them if you'll let me try. She looked down, shaking her head lightly. You don't even know how to live without control, do you? Not until I met you. Silence stretched, filled only by the hum of distant conversation and the sound of her heartbeat pounding in her ears. Finally, Taylor let out a shaky breath. You really showed up at a public university office in jeans, talking about earning trust? His mouth curved faintly. I thought I'd start small. Despite herself, a tiny laugh escaped her. He smiled, soft, vulnerable, nothing like the man she'd first met. Coffee, no press, no cameras. Just me, trying. She stared at him for a long moment, then sighed. You're persistent. I'm in tech, he said. We debug things until they work. That earned another laugh, real this time. She shook her head. One coffee. His smile deepened, relief flickering across his face. I'll take it. They walked side by side through the city, this time without limousines or photographers. Just a man and a woman learning how to breathe in the same rhythm again. They ended up at a quiet cafe tucked between old bookstores and brownstones. The kind of place that smelled like roasted beans and soft beginnings. Over steaming mugs, the air between them softened. Taylor spoke first. So what happens now? You go back to your board meetings and penthouse, and I go back to essays and student loans? Ethan looked at her. Or we meet in the middle. She arched an eyebrow. Manhattan's middle doesn't exactly exist, he chuckled. Then we'll make one. The way he said it made something inside her tremble. Not because of the promise, but because he sounded like he meant it. When they stepped back into the chill evening air, the city lights stretched around them, golden and alive. Ethan stopped at the corner, his gaze steady on her. Taylor, he said softly, you once told me I didn't know what love was. You were right. I used to think it was about control, about winning. But you showed me it's about letting go. So if you tell me to walk away right now, I will. No deals, no waiting. Just say it. Her throat tightened. For once, she couldn't find words. He took a breath. But if there's even a small part of you that feels what I feel, don't. She stared at him, tears blurring her vision. He looked raw, human. The armor was gone. Slowly, she stepped closer until there was barely an inch between them. Her voice trembled. "You drive me insane, Ethan Lee." His lips quirked. "So I've been told. You're impossible." "Maybe, but I'm yours, if you'll have me." Taylor's breath hitched. The city faded into a hum around them. For a heartbeat, she just looked at him, the man who'd grabbed her hand once to escape a past and somehow handed her his future instead. Then she smiled, small and real. "You're late for coffee number 2. Ethan's grin was slow and disbelieving. "Is that a yes?" She lifted her chin. "It's a maybe. Don't push it." He laughed, the sound warm and full. And when her fingers brushed his, he didn't grab this time. He just held on, gently, as if he'd finally learned the difference between needing someone and choosing them. Weeks later, photos would surface again. Ethan Lee spotted walking hand in hand through Central Park with his former fake girlfriend. Except this time, there was no performance, no headlines to fix, no contracts, just two people who'd learned, in the middle of all the chaos, that sometimes the most unexpected moments lead to the most real love. And as Taylor leaned her head on his shoulder beneath the golden city lights, she whispered the words that once seemed impossible. "I think you just earned it." Ethan smiled, his voice barely a whisper. Finally, the city buzzed around them, horns, laughter, distant music, and for once, Ethan didn't feel the need to chase anything. Because somehow, in a crowded room months ago, he'd grabbed a stranger's hand to escape his ex and ended up finding everything he didn't know he was missing. If you love this story of unexpected love and second chances, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us your favorite moment. Would you take a chance on love that started as a lie? Let us know, and don't forget to like this video. More stories that will make you believe in love are coming your way.